here we are, episode number 3 of the JohnnyCast Sports Show. And if you weren't made clear on my last regular podcast where I talked about my new content schedule, every Tuesday I'm going to be pumping out these, what I'm calling the JohnnyCast Sports Show. It's a sports edition of my regular podcast. Going to be recording it on Monday nights, which I think is a great time to do it, being that I can basically, review the previous weekend and week of sports. Baseball season is upon us. We know that many teams usually don't play on Mondays. It's a getaway day, so not going to miss much on that front. And then it'll be coming to you Tuesday. We'll preview the rest of the week and the weekend of sports, and then the cycle continues. Now, before we get into the topics at hand for today, it's been a while since I last spoke about sports in a long format, so I'd like to say that today, and I'm very proud of this, today's episode is sponsored by Fits Different Trading Company, which is, they're making some sick designs in regards to sports t-shirts. Right now, I have on the Mike Tyson little final t-shirt. I'm gonna stand up so you can see the full design because it's under my cardigan. Just give me 1 second here. Again, if you can see it, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So the link is going to be in my YouTube kind of description for this video, as well as if I post this on TikTok, it'll be in the TikTok description as well. Click on that link and then go check out the designs. They're killing it right now. So let's get right into sports because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm going to start off with baseball because it's probably, as probably anyone who knows me, it's my favorite sport. And let's start off with the rule changes. So we'll start off, I guess, with the shift that we've known has been a thing for a while, and in terms of the change of it. A few months, I think it's been in circulation. And what's really upsetting to me is that nothing's going to change because we're seeing in spring training right now that what teams are doing is because they can't move shortstop and third base over to the second base side, they're just moving the left fielder into shallow right field. So instead of having no third base, they're just having no left fielder. So granted, if you're a Joey Gallo, Anthony Rizzo type pull hitter, Cody Bellinger, one of these lefties, and you hit an oppo base hit now, that's probably a triple. Rather than it just being a single, but that bunt situation where you're able to just bunt the opposite way, a little push bunt, and get an easy base hit, that's taken away. So, hate to break the news to guys like Joey Gallo, and they're seeing it right now. Nothing's going to change, which is really a shame. It really is. That whole up the middle being a base hit again is not true. You're going to have the shortstop pretty much play over the bag. The second baseman's going to be playing where the second baseman always plays, and then the left fielder, again, is going to be in shallow right field. So, this kind of sucks. We're seeing an attack on offense, which is the exact opposite of what you want to see from the MLB. And this is a product of Manfred a little bit, who, in my opinion, is the worst. He's just the worst commissioner in sports. Been so for a while, really since he took over the job. They're doing all these things to get more favorable viewership with younger people and all that stuff. And they're trying to make the game quicker, and we're going to get to that in a second. Which is all good and fun, and I think there was definitely something to be addressed. There needed to be something addressed with the game time. It was. I enjoy it, but I know most people probably don't enjoy spending 4 hours watching a June baseball game. That's like kind of an irrelevant game. But to quicken these games up by basically, and I think this is how it's going to play out. It's going to diminish the offense. We're seeing the shift not changing. So all these guys who now were supposed to be over the last couple of months rumored to now be hitting well because they're going to have their holes back open. Not true. And now this pitch clock. So let's get to the pitch clock. I think it's a good thing, I guess, like on the surface. But now we're seeing, and I don't know if anyone's seen this video of Max Scherzer, who is just truly using this to his advantage. He's figured the loophole out already. There's so many loopholes in all these rules, but unfortunately every single one seems to really benefit the pitcher. So he's basically waiting. So let's just make this clear. The batter can only step out and call time once, I believe. If I'm incorrect, you can correct me here in the comments, but I'm like 99% sure the batter's only allowed to step out once. So let's say the pitcher's shaking off the catcher. He's taking his grand old time. And now the hitter's like, all right, dude, like, fuck this. You're fucking my timing up, and I'm giving you all day. I'm going to step out. So he calls time, steps out of the box. That pitch clock is still relevant. So that means that when the batter steps back in, the pitcher never had to have left the mound in the first place. He could just fire a fastball right in there. So as the batter is stepping into the box, he has to get ready and then hit, in essence, fucking his timing up. So we're seeing Max Scherzer do this, and I'm sure a lot of other pitchers are going to take some notes. I don't know where offense is going to be manufactured now when you have just an absolute war being waged on hitters. So that's my issue with the baseball rules off the bat. I hate the ghost runner, always have. Any real baseball fan hates it. I could see maybe I would be okay with after maybe the 14th inning of a regular season game or 13th inning, then you put a ghost runner on. But let the 10th, 11th, and 12th inning play out. I mean, there's scenarios all the time where a team comes back from being down in the 9th inning to tie the game up. A lot of momentum in their favor, a lot of good baseball to still be played. We're not talking about these like crazy 0-0 games that go on for 18 innings. Good game, maybe it's a 6-4 game. It gets tied up in the bottom of the 9th with a 2-run shot, and now you go and you play the 10th inning of good baseball. Now, again, you're just robbing the fans of that because you're just putting a runner on second off the bat. So hate that rule. Hopefully it'll be changed in the future. And that's really in terms of rules, that's all I got. Replay as well is in my opinion, in all sports really, is really hurting the product of what a real sport is. It's defeating the purpose of why replay would be beneficial when the spirit of the game is being tarnished a little bit. When you're stealing a bag, when you're stealing second or third base, and you clearly get in early, and you successfully steal the base, but the fielder is the second baseman or shortstop is holding the glove on you, and for a millisecond, not like realizable to the naked eye, maybe the foot comes off the bag, or maybe between the transition, if you're sliding head first, from your hands to your knees, a second your body like jumps off the bag. When they're replaying that and they're calling the runner out, it is so tragic to the brand of baseball that really is authentic when you're seeing guys being called out for that. And this goes with all sports. I mean, we can talk about this later, but the definition of a catch in the NFL now is laughable. It really is laughable. I think back to obviously the Jesse James situation against New England, but also even more recently, like the Dallas Goedert catch in the Super Bowl, even the Devontae Smith catch in the Super Bowl. I mean, if a guy makes a catch that like in the history of the world was a catch, you're playing backyard with your friends, he makes a catch. He doesn't. You have to now start defining in not in real time, in slow motion, if he has full possession. Like I don't know. It's just very stupid. I don't want to go into football right now, but replay is definitely diminishing the brand. Now let's get into just baseball in general. My first gripe with what I've been seeing is MLB Network, as we know, and I've talked about this. I think that was the last time I spoke about sports on a podcast. I was discussing how MLB Network, and I think it's called The Shredder, is like just completely butchering the top 10 lists per position for the MLB. And they recently, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, came out with top I think 100 players in the league, period. All positions, right? And I think the top 10 was pretty solid. It was maybe not the order was great, but like the players that were in the top 10 were certainly interchangeable, but they were not replaceable. I think they were deservedly so in the top 10. But they put J-Rod in Seattle up, I think, 15, which is above Bryce Harper. And there's a lot of other guys he was above. Now, baseball is the only sport where players, well, first of all, baseball is the only sport where baseball writers have like these gross infatuations and obsessions with players that have not done anything yet. This has been going on for decades, and J-Rod is no different. All the writers are obsessed with him. Everyone's already crowning him. Let the man play. He's a young kid. He's been hurt for most of the time he's ever been on a field. And sure, he's extremely talented. He had a great showing in the Derby last year. He flashes the glove. He's 5'2", honestly. Let him play first before we crown him. Bryce Harper is, by all measures, a phenomenal baseball player who not only has proven more than J-Rod, he's just flat out better than him right now in his career. It just really frustrates me, especially, and I know you can't really take small sample sizes in baseball. We know that, but and this is a 180 from my old opinion, where I didn't really love Bryce Harper, but the last couple of years he's proven it. I mean, especially last year's playoffs, he was incredible, an unbelievably electric player, solid fielder. Now that he's kind of in right or just not really a center fielder anymore because of some of his injuries, still plays a great outfield. He can DH when you need him to, and I mean, in terms of a bat, he's incredible. He really is incredible. So the fact that you can put a guy who is having pretty much almost every year relative MVP-esque seasons in back of J-Rod, Julio Rodriguez, who is really talented, but we haven't really seen it from yet, is a joke. So I'm not going to discuss any more of that list because, I mean, it's just not worth it. But that one ranking was just silly, in my opinion. Now, a couple things around the league. Jacob deGrom is a joke. We all know it. I love it. I think it's hysterical. If I was a Mets fan, which I am not, I would be thrilled. I was thrilled. If I was a Mets fan, I would have been thrilled the second that he signed with Texas when he didn't thank the fans and basically had to be forced to thank the fans, told me all I needed to know about him. When he told the media that he was looking forward to focusing on winning now because he was on the Rangers, that's a slap in the face of the Mets and just a true joke. And the guy can't stay in the field. I'm tired of all Mets fans and just all baseball fans who, again, crown him like he's God's gift to earth. I get he is, when healthy, the most electric pitcher in baseball, maybe one of the most electric pitchers of all time. But the last 3 years, he's not been able to do that. I think he started under 35 games total in the last 3 to 4 years. That cannot happen. And so I understand if this was 2020 or 2021 saying that he's a top 3 pitcher and all this crazy shit. But now, after years and years now of this same garbage where none of the injuries are really measurable. Oh, he feels tightness in his oblique. He feels a little bit of burning in his shoulder, and his elbow feels a little discomfort. All these buzzwords. To see, and I know this is old news, but to see his first kind of time on a mound as a Texas Ranger, him have to leave the session early because he had, I think, tightness in his oblique, is laugh out loud funny. And he should not be upset about any hate that comes his way because he leaves the Mets and he does the same bullshit with the Rangers. And if you're the Rangers, I don't understand some of these teams. I understand that you want to get involved with the big boys and you have the money to spend, so you want to put a good product on the field. But if you're going to invest money, right? These are assets at the end of the day. I know they're human beings, but they're assets. If you're going to invest a lot of money in a player, how about we invest in players that are proven to be durable? I've never understood this idea where you're going to throw a huge bag at a guy who is not proven to stay in the field when you're going to be relying on him. If you're the Mets or the Yankees or any top 5 payroll team that has a good roster to begin with, and you have the money, sure, throw a flyer at deGrom because, if he pitches well, it's an added huge bonus. And if he can't pitch, then, it's no harm, no foul to a certain extent. When you're the Rangers and your staff really, I know they've improved significantly from last year and over the last few years, definitely. But you're going to be relying on deGrom without a doubt, right? And so when you're relying on a guy to throw more starts in this 1 year than he's thrown in the last 3 years combined, that's an issue. So guys like that, another kind of risky signing like Marcus Semien, who I used to say Trevor Semien when I used to get him mixed up back in the day when he was first getting hot with Oakland. But guys like that who are just I get that they've had electric years, but they're not proven, or in DeGrom's case, they're not durable. Doesn't make any sense to me. So that was funny to see. We got a sad note in terms of injuries. It was really sad to see Gavin Lux go down. To see him post-game after the ACL was torn, crying because his dream was to play shortstop for the Los Angeles Dodgers, that just flat out sucks. I saw that teams were inquiring about him already in terms of trading because he's already hurt and the Dodgers might want to deal him for a current replacement. That would suck. But either way, I can't even imagine working your whole life to get to that point, and before you can actually act on it and have an impact, it's just robbed from you. It sucks. Reminds me of the kid, I can't even think of his name right now, the kid on the Yankees who came up and literally the first inning of his major league career, high-end prospect. What the fuck was his name? He, if you know his name, write a comment down below. But he's veering over to right field and gets his ankle or knee caught in the Oakland wall, and then tears his shit, and that's it, and he gets shipped away. Those situations are sad. They really are. Some other free agency news that I think it's worth talking about, or not free agency news, but I guess contract news, is the Padres are doing it. The Padres really are doing it. They are now, in my opinion, head and shoulders above the Dodgers, especially with just the way that the Dodgers are being very, I don't know what the right word is. I guess they're being conservative. They still have a huge payroll, but they're not going for it as they have in the last 5 years. Maybe they're saving up for Ohtani, who I don't even think would go there. But either way, Machado getting that extension was a bummer to the Yankees fans because I truly thought there was a good chance, especially when he came out and he said that he didn't see a long-term future with the Padres, and he was going to decline the option. I thought there was a really good chance we were going to trade for him at the deadline, and that would have been the answer to every single question that the Yankees have. That would have been, I mean, just a all-world player, third baseman, which is in need, great hitter, great fielder, clutch now, has swagger and more of like that anti-Yankees demeanor, which the Yankees could use. And he's always been rumored. He loves the Yankees, right? He's always been rumored to be, when he was with Baltimore, that was a big situation. So to see him get that extension, good for him. But that's a true shame for the Yankees fans. And the Padres are going to be really legit. That left side of the infield is special. I mean, Bogarts pretty much is like a top 3 shortstop in baseball. I don't care what anyone says. He's gone under the radar. He is the best consistent hitter out of all the shortstops, I think. I like him better than Trey Turner. I do. And so you take them into account. Then you have their staff is very good, even though Musgrove just went down with what did he go down with? He like dropped the kettlebell on his foot. Shame. I mean, he'll be back, but Soto, who controversial opinion, but it is what it is. I think he's highly overrated. He's amazing. Don't get me wrong. He's another guy like Julio Rodriguez that is just crowned like he's God's gift to earth. Who, sure, he's had a couple great seasons, especially when he was even younger. Incredible run with the Nationals to win a World Series. But over the last few years, hasn't really done what he's supposed to do. Sure, his on-base percentage and his walks are going to always lead the league or be up there. But he was a huge disappointment last year. I think he's got a lot to prove this year. And they're rumored to sign him and lock him up as well. If they lock all these guys up, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with for many, many years. They threw a bag at Judge. They threw a bag at a million guys I'm even forgetting right now. But that GM is the man, and that owner is doing it. That's a cool franchise. They have the best jerseys in baseball, in my opinion, especially those matte brown helmets, sick jerseys. My only dislike of the team, quite frankly, is Tatis, and people forget that they even have Tatis. I think he's coming back the 3rd week of April from that suspension. We're going to see how he is without the roids. I think he'll still be very effective. Going to be playing center, I think, so I don't know where Grisham's going to go, and Grisham's certainly a better fielder than him, so that'll get dicey, but they'll figure it out. But they're a team to be reckoned with, especially going down into late September and into October next year. They have some experience down in the playoffs. They have a lot of swagger, a lot of confidence. And you never know what they do at the deadline as well. So that's what it is. They're gonna lock up Hader, I think. So they have everything. They have the hitters. They're a good fielding defensive team. They have pretty significant staff in terms of their starting pitching. Their bullpen's pretty solid, and then you got Hader at the back end of the bullpen, which is fucking awesome. I never really truly respected him for a while. I thought he was a little bit of a choke artist, as we've seen by him in the playoffs recently, but last year, he changed my mind. He killed it in the playoffs. So that's what I got about that division. Giants really didn't make enough moves to move the needle. Conforto, who people say I look like, is a nice little story. We'll see how he does. But you can't sign him and Mitch Haniger and think that you're gonna like compete in that division. So you got that. NL Central. Contreras is a weird one. The fact that Contreras goes to St. Louis and then starts talking shit about the Cubs is an odd one, especially when everyone thought he was going to stay with the Cubs. So, or just leave the division and leave maybe even the league in general. So I've never really cared too much about the NL Central. I'm going to be honest with you. Besides like the very, I guess, surface level stuff, I'm not really that big of a, I don't follow it too well. So, clearly the Cardinals will be a force. Brewers are solid, even though they gave a lot of guys away last year. The Cubs made a lot of interesting moves. I mean, they're kind of doing the thing that the Red Sox are doing where they're towing the line and they're kind of in between, which is, in my opinion, the worst mistake you can make. They're signing guys like Bellinger on a bounce-back year who clearly is just using them for 1 year to get a better contract next time. And so they're still kind of spending money on him. They spent money on Tyone. Quality guys that you add to an already great roster to make a team even better. Not a team that's kind of rebuilding. So they didn't and obviously they get Dansby Swanson, who is going to be a huge help, one of the better shortstops in baseball. But again, that roster's not good enough to do anything significant. So that was just a weird one. Maybe they could build around him for years to come, but as of right now, very odd. And now let's get to the NL East, because that's, I mean, aside from the AL East and the American League in general, that has got to be my favorite and most exciting division to follow this year. So let's go in order of teams. I think, excuse me. Let's go in order of how well we think these teams are going to do in the NL East. So I think the best team in the division is the Phillies. Clearly, they have I mean, you never know if it's going to be a hangover, but because they didn't win, I don't see that. I don't foresee that being an issue. But you have the crazy experience of getting to the World Series and doing some damage at the beginning of it. Great lineup that gets even better. They had Trey Turner, and just great roster, up and down, up and down. I would be a little scared about the back end of their bullpen, but besides that, really exciting stuff. They got a good staff. They know how to beat teams in their division, and Bryce Harper is going to hopefully be fully healthy relatively soon. So if I was a Phillies fan, I'd be excited. I think you're the favorite. The Braves are interesting because they have so much young talent now. They lose Swanson, but they add some guys, and they're always going to be there. Their pitching's phenomenal. You're going to have Fried, all those. You're going to have literally that entire rotation. Soroka's healthy now, all these guys. Or he's going to be healthy. So they're a force to be reckoned with. I think they're the surest bet in that division. I think the Phillies are the best team. And then you have the Mets, who, largest payroll in baseball, a team with incredible expectations, especially with how they kind of blew it last year. I don't care if they had 101 wins. They pretty much blew the season last year between the Braves series to close out the year, losing the division, and then obviously losing in the wild card the way they did, with really their best players and who they put the most stock into being the reason they lost as well. But they add Verlander and subtract DeGrom, which is people don't understand this. People keep saying like, oh, well, they didn't get better, they didn't get worse in terms of that lead guy in their rotation because, I mean, you swap out Verlander, who's great, for DeGrom, who's great. No, they got significantly better in that regard because Verlander actually throws. I mean, when he's pitching, he's pitching. You know, you never know if he gets hurt. He's like 55 years old now at this point. But DeGrom doesn't pitch it a lot. So they did what they did. They won 101 games without DeGrom. So now imagine adding to that team Verlander. It's going to be a great thing. Now you lose Taijuan Walker, but you add Quintana, who I like a lot, and he's a lot cheaper. You add the Japanese kid, who you never know. They used a smaller ball, but he's got electric stuff supposedly, and that remains to be seen. You have the best closer in baseball, probably, maybe besides Clase, in Edwin Diaz, that's an incredible weapon to have. We know that, and the lineup is the issue because they do not have. That Correa deal falling through was a big deal for them because they do not have the exclamation point in that lineup. Sure, Lindor is. I'm not a Lindor fan. He had a great year last year, and he's a great hitter, though. I'm not saying he's not. You have Alonso, who is just continuing to improve every year. I think he'll be a good, obviously, piece in that lineup. And you go down it, though, and do you really want Brett Beatty, or do you really want Escobar being your actual third baseman? You probably, for a championship team, that's a little tough. That's a little tough to have, especially when you have absolutely no offensive catcher, because Alvarez looks like he's not doing anything. They're not even going to bring him up to start the year. So if I was a Mets fan, sure, you can make a deal at the deadline. We're going to see how it goes and plays out, but I would be a little bit upset. I don't think they got much better. Clearly, they upgraded a little bit in pitching, in my opinion, especially at the rotation. But the lineup is just not good enough to get it done. And certainly when you're competing against the Braves and you're competing against the Phillies with those rotations and just as good, if not better offenses, I think you're the third dog in the race. I really do. You sign guys back like Ottavino, where I know that Mets fans like Ottavino because he had a good year for you guys last year. He's horrible. He really is just not good, and I think it's going to bite them in the ass next year. I think they're going to be even more confident in him, throwing him in even crazier situations, and I mean, I can't see him being consistent and doing what he does. Now, let me get to the rest of my notes because I have some other baseball stuff I would like to talk about before I get to the Yankees. All right, so before I get to the Yankees, a couple other things about baseball. So you have the rest of that division. Miami is just a fun team as always because like they have no expectations, but I mean they have when you see what's his name Alcantara, it's just he gets a little disrespected to be quite frank. I mean he's been such an electric talent the last couple of years, and then had the year to back it up last year, and he's still being put behind Max Scherzer and stuff like that. I think Max Scherzer is done. I think he's done. We saw him fizzle out with the Dodgers. Now the Mets, he fizzled out again, and he's just too old. It's just, and it's annoying to see him labor on the mound like he thinks he's God still. I'd be shocked if he has a Cy Young-esque year. I think he'll have a good year, obviously. If you're one of the best, if not the best pitchers of a generation, and then you just get worse off, you're still going to be good. But I don't think the Mets should be relying on him to to be the guy that he's been for the last decade. So now let's get to the American League quickly. Well, besides the Yankees. So AL West, and this is funny to me. I mean, Houston is the team. Houston is the team in all of baseball. They are fucking incredible. Their staff, you're going to start hearing, even though we know them already, but the average fan probably doesn't. You're going to start hearing about all these guys in their rotation that are just unbelievable. Christian Javier, unbelievable. We know Framber Valdez does what he does, and a lot of other guys. So them losing Verlander, I would not be worried. And honestly, they don't even have to rely on McCullers because they have so much talent at the front end of that rotation and just really consistently throughout it. So you have that. Oh my God, the Angels, right? Imagine a team with, I mean, by all accounts, in terms of the writers, the two best players in baseball. They have a World Series putting a team on his back, third baseman, almost MVP-esque player in Anthony Rendon. You have other good, solid pieces, right? I like the first baseman a lot, Walsh. And Squid at shortstop is a great tool to have. One of the best, if not the best fielder at shortstop in the entire league in baseball. And so something's just fundamentally off with that team. It just is. And so I cannot foresee Ohtani staying there. He's just burying himself in no man's land. And if he was in a bigger market, even if it's the same city like Los Angeles, like the Dodgers, or clearly with the Yankees, or just anywhere East Coast, he would, if you think Aaron Judge in baseball terms, because we know baseball players really aren't at the crux of like popularity in terms of athletes anymore. But if you think Aaron Judge is big for the sport, Ohtani would be worlds more if he was on the Yankees or on the Mets. And I think he might end up with the Mets. I do, even though if he's going to ask for $700 million, that's just ridiculous. Because I think I'm not going to we'll get to Ohtani in next episode probably, but I think what Ohtani does is incredible, but I think it's not sustainable. And what am I basing that off of? Really nothing. But I don't know. I just think that this whole, like, he should be paid $700 million because he does both thing is just stupid. So anyway, Trout coming out making comments about how this is the year and how, I mean, oh my God, if there was ever a year, it's this one and there's a lot of pressure on us. Dude, shut up. You took this fucking job because you didn't want to do anything. You didn't want to have any pressure on you. You've been the best player in baseball since you pretty much stepped in the league, apart from like your shitty rookie year. And basically have just been irrelevant, right? You had one playoff series you played in. You played a little bit. You played all right. And so, I mean, to act like now you're going to have all this pressure on you is just a joke. And I guess newsflash, you're not doing anything. You're not winning that division. So the fact that you think that like you're going to be the reason why Ohtani stays or leaves is just stupid. Now, I think they could put together a good team, especially they got my man. They got Gio Urshela as well. So they're a good roster. They unfortunately, if they like, for example, if they were in the AL Central, I think they'd walk away with the division. I really do. But because they're in the NL West, the AL West, I don't foresee them really doing much. If they get into the wild card, sure, they could be some type of threat. But the Mariners are a good young team and they have good pitching. I think they're at best just as good as the Mariners. So that puts them at 2A or B, maybe worst case scenario 3 in their division. So that's what I got to say about that. Trout's a joke, always been a joke, always will be a joke. And people are gonna talk about him like all the sports right. And listen, obviously he's the best player in baseball. He's incredible. He really is incredible. He had an effortless 40 home run year last year, and he didn't even have that many at bats. But it's just not fun when he comes to Yankee Stadium, does nothing. When I don't get to see him play all the time. When no one really gets to see him play all the time, and he's not in the playoffs ever. So yeah, I guess the pressure is on him. So I guess maybe he is right, but whatever. AL Central, interesting one. Twins, until they prove otherwise, are just a laughingstock. They sign Gallo. They get what's his name from. They get the closer from Baltimore. He's evading my memory right now. His name. They make him another couple moves in the pitching department. They're not doing shit. Let's get real. They're not doing shit. So there's that. Then you got Cleveland, who showed so much. I mean, just fucking. They're awesome, coached by one of the better managers in baseball over the last 25 years, right? And I think that Tito's going to have them in a good position to repeat what they did last year. Young team, good team, led by Jose Ramirez, who's without a doubt top 5 to 7 player in baseball, probably maybe 7. Because this was a debate, and I know I didn't talk much about the Cardinals other than Contreras, but Arenado's a better player than J-Ram. He is, and I like him as a player, Jose Ramirez, but Nolan Arenado is the best third baseman in baseball. No questions asked, in my opinion. So anyway, getting back to it, Cleveland, I like him. I like him a lot. That shortstop, man. That fucking shortstop. He just is just such a good hitter, and he's such a hitter that's so refreshing to see, where he's not striking out. He's rarely swinging and missing, and he's just a pest, man. He's just a fucking pest. I think if he can do what he did, even half of what he did in the playoffs during this regular season, he's going to be an all-star. So they got a fun, good, young team. And I to be honest, I don't really care much about the rest of that division. I don't. So there's that. And now we have the AL East, which will go from bottom to top. So Baltimore, actually no. So Boston is probably going to finish in last, I think. I really do. They are just not who they should be at this point with the money they spend. Now they're doing this like kind of similar situation to the Cubs, where they're in between. They overpay for the Japanese outfielder. And yeah, obviously they lock up Devers, they lose Bogarts. I don't foresee really them doing anything in a big way, especially in this division. I know the schedule now lends itself to not having to worry too much about how good your division opponents are, but either way, yeah, Boston is Boston. They're and they'll come right back. You're gonna see in 2 years they're gonna have something's gonna happen, and they're gonna be right back, 95 wins, and they'll be a force to be reckoned with. But for right now, this year, maybe they have some surprises in the middle of the season, like the Mets used to when they weren't good. But I can't see them doing shit. So there's that. Then you got Baltimore, who similar trajectory in my opinion to the Cleveland Cleveland Guardians, but they have much more top end talent. That catcher is special, and I think that they're going to be very good for years to come. It's fun to see a team like that in a market that matters, that really has been just beaten down. Finally, they had them years when Zach Britton was their like leader, I guess. And you had who else was on that team? Like I guess like Chris Davis when he wasn't having a panic attack every day and all that stuff. But Adam Jones, those were fun teams. But yeah, I think they're gonna have a solid year. I don't exactly know. I don't really look at the lines anymore for over-unders for the team totals in wins, but I would, whatever it's set at, I would take the over, because I think they're going to exceed expectations. But I think the expectations aren't that low. I think people understand now who the Baltimore Orioles. Kind of hard to say. Try to say Baltimore Orioles quick. Baltimore Orioles. I think that they're a team that is going to be fun, and they're going to continue to get better. If they add a couple veteran, good talent guys over the next 2 or 3 years, they really could be good, and you never know what happens with the rest of the teams in this division. Now, next up, you have Tampa Bay, who I guess by all accounts is looked down on this year compared to other years, like the last 5 years, I'd say. I think it's a lot of pressure on Wander Franco. I think he's got to really have a good year. He was hurt. It was up and down from him last year. And a lot of their guys underperformed last year, and now we're going to see what they're really made of, because we don't really know who they are now. If maybe they were playing above their head the last couple of years. What we do know is that they got a great rotation, very good pitching. They're always going to have a great bullpen. They've been locking these guys up. They just locked up Fairbanks with the fucking eyes for a minute. They locked up just a bunch of guys. McClanahan, we know, is going to be incredible. What's his name? Hot guy with the long hair is just an injury risk all the time. I think he tweaked something like last week. But I hope he pitches, because when he pitches, they're a better team for it. So they'll be who they are. I'd say, like, I don't know where that line's at, but I would say like 85 to 90 wins. A good team. They're a good team. Don't get me wrong. And then you have the Jays, who I fucking hate, obviously. I can't stand them. Their attitude. Vladdy is just like he's obsessed with the Yankees to a fault. And when he said his favorite moment of the regular season was beating the Yankees in a regular season game, I mean, that just tells you all you need to know about the priorities in that clubhouse for now. You don't know what's going to change. But I do like Bo Bichette. The team itself clearly has a lot of talent. Offensively, incredible. Pitching, Manoah is great. They got a good staff as well. I guess, what's his name is still on the team? Ryu? I guess so. So they got good pitching, for sure. And I think they're going to underperform as usual, but you never know, because they're dangerous. If they sign some guys that are fun. They even took, what's his name from Tampa Bay, Kiermaier. Odd, very odd. They signed Donnie Baseball I think he's the actual hitting coach now. So they're making some weird moves, but they make the trade for Varsho, who is people are gonna start to recognize who that is. I guess the Jays aren't too hot on Kirk in terms of his durability. He should probably lose 50 pounds like Vogelbach, but yeah, they're gonna be a good team. And honestly, this division's up for grabs because the biggest wild card of them all is the Yankees. The Yankees on paper have gotten worse. Again, 2 years in a row have gotten worse. The issue for them is that they're blinded, and by they, I mean the front office is blinded and by just the regular season win totals and not listening to the fans and the expectations that George had set years and years ago. And we'll get right into the Yankees now. It just is frustrating when all the needs that are so clearly yelling, they're screaming from the mountains. We need third baseman help. We need left field help. We need left-handed bats. We need contact hitters. We need clutch hitters, right? That's just not being addressed, and they're addressing and beating to death the pitching situation, which, again, I'm going to say this for the 80 millionth time on a podcast, has never been the Yankees' issue ever. So when you're looking at what they've done, sure, they add Rodon, who is awesome. I like his attitude, but, again, he's an injury risk. So you're throwing this guy all this money who has never really been able to stay on the field too long. We're going to see. You have Severino, who's an injury risk every fucking year at this point. If he gets hurt this year, he could throw his career away. It's over. And then... So the pitching rotation is obviously very, very good, but a little bit of a question mark in terms of injury, right? Then, and you have Montas go down. I mean, what Brian Cashman's track record with trades right now is at an all-time low for any GM in the history of sports. I mean, I just don't get it. It's almost like if you tried to be this bad, it would be impossible. Right, it's really difficult to be this bad at especially pitching talent over the last 2 decades, right? And so Montas, from the moment he stepped on the mound, was a complete and utter joke. I was one of those guys who got cute and was like, we definitely want him more than the kid in Cincinnati because I don't know, he's just good against he's good against Houston, all this shit. He steps on the mound, he looked like he just wasn't built for it, and clearly they traded for him with an issue with his shoulder. Shoulder kept nagging him. Then he's claimed to be healthy in the playoffs and just shits his pants on the biggest stage. And they shut him down for the whole offseason. He's going to be fully healthy. The first week of spring, they now have to shut him down with, again, a shoulder issue. He's getting surgeries out for the year. The guy's a clown. Get him off the team. I said it on another podcast. I didn't want him anywhere near a mound, and I got my wish. I did. So Yanks got a good rotation right now. Obviously, Montas was never going to do anything anyway, so it didn't make a difference. People who think he was are delusional. Good rotation, a lot of injury questions. Bullpen is obviously one of the better in baseball, but the issue is that the I guess leader of it, who would be the closer, is still up for grabs. I mean, I do not trust Clay Holmes. Maybe he was nagging an injury last year, so that's why he was a little bit iffy with the control, but you don't know that. Maybe he's just not really ready to be that high leverage closer. So you got all these guys. You lose Chad Green, again, another guy who goes to Tampa or to Toronto. Weird, but yeah, you got Johnny Loizaga, who I think should be the closer. Or I take that back, actually. Loizaga is a clear-cut eighth-inning guy, in my opinion. 1 inning, get him in, get him out. When he pitches more than 1 inning, he's always a disaster. So, realistically, people, this might be a little bit taboo here. This might be a little bit controversial. But I would make Wandy the actual closer. We know he's built for the big moments, and he gets the job done no matter what. And so you have Clay kind of hanging out at the 7th or 8th inning, I think, and then Wandy at 9. I think that's the way to go. And now the lineup and the just the issues to be addressed with this lineup and these offensive issues. So first of all, I do feel bad for Hicks and Donaldson because this is funny to me. It's fucking spring. Even the first week before even spring really started, they called pitchers and catchers, and then everyone else came. They're just taking regular, like, simulated game at-bats with their own guys, right? And you have, like, fucking Hulk and all these writers with their phones out, recording them, take just regular at-bats, and, like, yeah, they're trying stuff, they're mixing stuff in, and they're striking out, or whatever the case, they're swinging at one strike and missing a ball, and they're getting lit up on Twitter. They're getting video footage of them striking out in spring. It's just before even real spring games started. So you got to feel bad for them. He's getting booed his first at bat at spring. And that's what's funny about fans in general and Yankees fans specifically is, and I don't blame the fans for booing to a certain extent, but it's a fresh year, new year. They're booing Hicks' first at bat of spring, or one of his first at bats of spring, and then he hits a base hit and they start cheering. It's like it's like a fucking joke. So you have that. You have the two biggest glaring issues are the positions that they unfortunately play, which is third and left field. And so I think Brian Reynolds, that is, on Pittsburgh, wanting 180 million or whatever the fuck he wants is a lot of money for a guy who's played in a small market. But you might have to do it. You might have to trade for him and extend him. You might have to do it. And if he is who he is, he's an electric player. I think he's electric player. I think he's relatively young still. I think he's under 30. So you're looking at let's go around the horn for a second. So catcher is, I mean, as good as it's going to get unless you have an elite level catcher. So Trevino looked like he was legally blind in the playoffs in terms of hitting the ball, but one of the better framers in baseball, a great fielder. Higashioka, I actually trust his bat more than Trevino. Good, he kind of manages the staff as well decently. So I can't complain about everything. So the catchers will be the catchers. People are making rumors up that Gary Sanchez, because he's kind of a free agent right now, would the Yankees would have interest in bringing him back. No, thank you. Okay, no, thank you, El Gary. We had a good time with you. It's over. Okay, we don't need Kraken back with us. We don't need El Fat back with us. So that's that. Rizzo at first, we know what he does. Second base, I would have shipped Glaber off last year to Miami for Lopez, and that was a huge mistake, but it is what it is. I would still ship him off now, get him away, while his value is still relatively high. And by relatively, it's still, but what I mean by that is it's half of what it was 2 years ago, but it's still salvageable. Then you have shortstop, which is a complete question mark. They wanted Peraza at the beginning of spring and in the offseason to be the starting shortstop and give him a chance. And I have no problem doing that. Incredible fielder, and he's yet to prove if he could play with the bat or not, but you have no other choice, right? I don't even hate IKF, but the fans have now demonized him into being like the worst baseball player ever. There's no coming back from that. So that's over with. So you have a rookie at short, an iffy second baseman at this point, and then a third baseman who is 50 years old, who is rocking a graying, balding fucking mullet. Same mullet as I have, except I'm not graying. And so that's a joke. Left field, I guess they've been rumored to be moving Judge to left field to make room for Stanton in right. But if you don't do that, then you got left field open. I guess you have Cabrera there, which I like Oswaldo Cabrera, and I think he's just going to be a good utility man in general. And I'm also I didn't forget DJ LeMahieu. I'm assuming he'll be playing third a lot. But realistically, I don't know. I think if you shipped Glaber off, there's a lot of openings that can happen, and it all has to do with the young kids, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But then let's just round it off. Obviously, Judge and right, Bader and center, they're not going anywhere. So DH Stanton. So basically, before spring, I would have said, yeah, it's a complete and utter disaster, and it still could be. But when you see Anthony Volpe play, and you see even, I hate to say it, but Jason Dominguez play, I know he's a little too young, but specifically Volpe, tell me and give me a reason why you wouldn't bring Volpe up now. He's ready. It's eye test city. He is so ready for Major League Baseball, and whether he's going to struggle at the beginning or not is irrelevant. This is a no-brainer. I'd put DJ at third. I'd put Volpe at second, Peraza at short, and let the boys play. And then, honestly, we can see what happens mid-season with Dominguez, and I think he's going to be playing Double-A or maybe even Triple-A this year. If he's tearing up the minors, throw him in left. Throw him in left. It's over. Done. You have the talent now. Don't fucking ruin this like Cashman, like you've ruined every other player in the last 10 years that's been brought up in the farm system besides Judge, basically, on the offensive side of the ball. So that's just the main question mark is you have these young kids who could do something. We've seen Pena on Houston and all the guys that Houston bring up and even Atlanta that produce off the bat. And, I mean, these are high-level, top prospects. Let them do their thing. Let them see. Mets failed miserably because the issue that they made with Alvarez last year is they brought him up, their top prospect, one of the top prospects in baseball. They bring him up in a pennant race, which was way too much pressure. They're relying on this kid to hit. But if you're starting the season in April with a good roster that the Yankees do have, and you're expected to win 100 or maybe 95 games, no harm, no foul. He struggles a little bit. You bring him down. You bring him back up. Who cares? Let's try him out here. But the reason why I would bring Volpe and put him in second and Peraza at short and then put DJ at third is because Peraza's glove is too good to move him from short. It just is. So that's really all I got from the Yankees in that perspective. My opinion on them is I think they do win like 95 games, but that doesn't mean shit. Until they make a deal at the deadline for a legitimate left-handed bat or a switch hitter that, plays either third or left, which I'm basically describing Brian Reynolds right now, who could really prove that he can hit when it matters and everyone stays healthy, then we'll see. Because the Yankees roster is half of that of the Houston Astros. It really is. They almost got beat by the Cleveland last year, and they should have. And I don't think they made any improvements. They didn't. So All right, so I know I spent a lot of time on baseball. Let's get to quickly a couple other things, and then we'll send you on your way. So first of all, I got two things to talk about in regards to Sports Talk Radio, more specifically WFAN. Last week, I wrote a tweet. I tweeted to Craig Carton and the Carton Roberts show about how I think the show is terrible, and for Afternoon Drive, it's never talking about sports, and that Craig doesn't know shit about sports, and yada, yada, yada. And after I wrote it, and then inevitably after he responded to me, Craig that is, I did feel shitty because I really don't want to be putting that negativity out in the air on Twitter. And I do like Craig Carton, and I respect what he does. And I think like his style of radio is more probably suited to what I would do if I was in that position, although I do know sports very well, and I'm sure he kind of does as well. It's a little shtick. I like kind of the Howard Stern-esque. I mean, he obviously took that little kind of cue from Howard Stern where he's a little bit shock jock, that type of shit. We saw that with Boomer and Carton, and then obviously Gio and Boomer have taken that place. But anyway, so I felt bad. He responds, and he says like, "Oh, had the show change, or how did Evan change?" And ha ha ha, and we go back and forth, and it just showed me how crazy people are on Twitter. People were coming out defending Carton like he was God. Yeah, he was just like Jesus Christ, and like coming at me like I'm this evil villain, like saying derogatory, shitty things to me. Twitter is a scary place, and I will not be tweeting any more negativity in terms of at people in the air. I'm not doing it. Now, what happened yesterday, and again, this is being recorded on Sunday. Usually they're going to be recorded on Mondays, but because of some scheduling next week, I wanted to get this out of the way. So yesterday, the Johnny Bones fight was against Cyril Gahn, and I flipped it on just for that fight, and thankfully I didn't buy the whole fight because it was a 5-second fight. Bones is awesome, and I don't watch UFC as enough as I should. I've always been more of a boxing guy. I've always been under the assumption, and I still believe that Khabib Nurmagomedov is the best UFC fighter just ever because what he did to all of his opponents, including McGregor, who was quote-unquote at the top of his game and all that shit, basically dethroned McGregor and who was the biggest star in UFC at that point without having any positive drug tests or anything like that, and then retiring still when he was on top. I still have to believe he's the best of all time, but it was cool to see John Bones Jones do what he did yesterday. I need to see him fight Francis. I need to see him fight Ngannou. If he brings back Stipe into the ring, I mean, into the cage, I should say, do we really care? I think Stipe's probably like in his 40s now. Come on, he's a little washed up. So that was that fight. Quick tap. It was cool to see. Let's get to basketball quickly. New York Knicks. Growing up, I was a Phoenix Suns fan because of Steve Nash, and I was a diehard fan, probably even more so than I was a Yankees fan when I was a kid. I was such a diehard Suns fan. After Nash got traded to the Lakers, or signed them, forgetting honestly what happened, I slowly started to dissipate my fandom, but I still loved them because of Booker, but the front office was a joke, yada, yada, yada. Tried to get back into them, really couldn't, and then COVID happens, and I fell in love with the Denver Nuggets and Jamal Murray more specifically, but that's kind of dissipated as well, just with my entire interest of the NBA. But it's that time of the month, it's that time of the year now where basketball is king, and so I'm getting back into watching basketball, and it just so happens that the New York Knicks are electric to watch. So the last 6 months, I'd say, I've been not 6 months, the last like 3 months, I've been watching the Knicks here and there. I loved that team when they played the Hawks 2 years ago, or was it last year? I don't even remember, honestly, at this point, but bottom line is, this team is so fun. Jalen Brunson's a beast. That game against Miami was so electric in the second half. It was really a playoff atmosphere, and to see them finally win a game like that was really encouraging. Josh Hart is the man. I've always loved him since Villanova, and he always plays hard. He's with the Lakers. I liked him, but you cannot have, and this is a fact. Well, first of all, R.J. Barrett has absolutely no skill at all. It's like watching the kid in pickup ball who just is going to use his right hand, and in RJ's case left hand, and just run straight at the basket like a bulldozer and just get the ball stolen or turn it over every fucking time. That's what RJ feels like when he's on the floor. So not impressed with RJ at all over the last week or two stretch of them playing extremely well, but Randall, I'm coming around on, obviously, is a volume scorer, and I like that what he could do, but he cannot be the guy with the ball at the end of a game. We saw it. I mean, the second to last possession, which was at that point the most important possession of the game, they're up at this point. Julius turns the ball over in a miserable fashion. They then, off the turnover, Miami hits a basket where they're losing now. Now the last possession, they give the ball back to Randall, and he almost turns it over twice and then chucks up garbage, and luckily the ball goes in, and they win. So it was a cool thing to see, and them winning. But Jalen Brunson has to have the ball at the end of a game. If you want to have some type of two-man game with Randall, or just like have him like pop and like hit a just like catch and shoot or something, sure. Or if he has like a good favorable matchup, but you can't have him at the top of the point just forcing shit. So the Knicks are super fun. They're about to play the Celtics in about an hour. I'm so excited for that game. Jaylen Brown's back. So last time they beat the Celtics, obviously he didn't play. Now you're going to have a relatively full-strength Celtics team, so I'm excited to see them and how they play against that. So basketball has been fun. You have college basketball coming up, the tournament that is, very soon. Selection Sunday is next Sunday. Tournament's always one of my favorite events of the year. Now that I don't gamble anymore, it might be a little bit harder to get into, being that I'm not doing a bracket or not gambling on the games, but it'll still be fun. So very, very cool. Quick negativity in the NBA. I think the NBA is a soap opera the last 5 years. I think it's just been a shell of what it's been for the last 50, 60 years, especially my childhood. It was so amazing. Started to go downhill when Durant went to Golden State, and it's just continually gotten worse and worse and worse. The effect is compounded year over year. And one of these morons in the league that thinks he knows it all, thinks he's a fucking politician, and thinks he's just, again, the theme of the podcast is all these athletes thinking they're God's gift to earth, is John Morant. And just seeing him with the gun now, and now him having to take a step away from mental health and all this shit, fuck you, John Morant, honestly. I mean, maybe if you get better, I'll give you a second chance here, but the immaturity and all this garbage he's done over the last year or two, and now to have it basically climax and him showing a gun on his IG Live, I hope he gets suspended for the rest of the year. Obviously, he's not going to, but, I mean, what a joke. And, not to mention, they blew a huge lead against Denver, and that leads me to my next point. Why is there so much disrespect for Jokic? I mean, is it because he's European? I don't even know why, but no one wants to give the man his due. You got Perkins talking about how he's basically he's like triple-double chasing, and he's not really for the team. He is the best team player we've probably ever seen. He's about to win his third straight MVP. No one's done that since, I think, Larry Bird. Okay, He's doing this. I watched JJ Redick say this. He's doing this. Everyone keeps criticizing him because he hasn't gotten to a championship, and now if he doesn't make the championship, he doesn't win the finals this year. It's kind of a huge asterisk, right? He has no other all-star on his team. These are all role players. I mean, you're talking about, and it hurts for me to say this because I love Jamal Murray. He's not playing at the level that he used to play. I don't know why that is, but all these other guys have multiple stars. Jokic is doing it on his own. Clearly, they have an amazing supporting cast. They play great defense. They're just great. That's why they have the best record in basketball. But yeah, Jokic, the hate I hope fuels him, and it sure as hell as a fan fuels me. And I will be rooting extremely hard in the West for Denver to come out of it. I'll be rooting for the Knicks in the East. I like the Nets too. Honestly, I love the roster turnover because I love Mikal Bridges. I love Cam Johnson. Those are two of the more likable guys in that Phoenix Suns roster before they got traded. Always have loved Dinwiddie. Always loved a bunch of these guys. When they made those major trades too, and they got rid of Jared Allen and all that stuff, it really upset me. I like those teams. But anyway, so that's my basketball take. I'm gonna probably look a lot more into the tournament over the next week, and then I'll have some more opinions on that. And I'll end this podcast off with some quick football, really just Jets related or just quarterback related. I'm done with Aaron Rodgers. As a Jets fan, I don't even want him anymore. Lock up Derek Carr. He's going to be much more of a stable presence. You're going to have him for 4 or 5 years, and he's an above-average quarterback who has never had a defense to play with that's been good. So you put him on this team with good talent around him. I think it could be a great year for the Jets. I think it could be a 10 to 12 win team. And you never know with that amount of talent they have offensively and how good their defense is, they can do a lot of things. Maybe Derek Carr has his best year ever. So I'm done with the whole darkness retreat and the whole ego bullshit from Aaron Rodgers. I don't want him. If they sign him, sure, it would be good because you'd be able to keep Zach Wilson, have him learn, I guess, whatever the fuck that means. I think he's finished regardless. And so if you do sign Derek Carr, I'm sorry to break it to Zach Wilson, but I mean he cannot be on this team. He cannot be on this roster, no matter what Joe Douglas says. So I know it's kind of the dog days of the football offseason, so not much really to talk about. But it would be devastating if Rodgers obviously decides to do whatever the fuck he wants to do, and then Carr signs with another team, and then the Jets are left with like Ryan Tannehill, or they're left with Jacoby Brissett, or one of these guys, or Baker Mayfield, Jimmy G. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm hoping that'll happen very soon over the next couple of days because it's got to be. I mean, how much longer can these guys be just free agents, right? Or just in Rodgers' case, be kind of in no man's land, demanding a trade but still under contract. So that's all I got, friends. Again, today's episode was brought to you by Fitz Different Trading Company, my first advertiser on the JohnnyCast Sports Show. Very excited about it. Again, I'm wearing the Mike Tyson Spinal. It's a Spinal shirt, and I'm going to show you guys again. Very nice. Fits very nice. Fit hugs the biceps. I don't know if you can see, but yeah. So the link will be down below for that. I'll be next time I'll be coming to you will be next Sunday. You'll be seeing a JohnnyCast, and then the following Tuesday after that with the 4th episode. That's right. Yep, 4th episode of the JohnnyCast Sports Show. And thanks again, friends. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you can. If you have any strong opinions about what I've just said in regards to these sports takes I've talked about, definitely leave a comment below. And to the moon, boys. Cheers.